I warn you right now, for the next 40 minutes or so, this is not going to be a safe zone. He's going to say things that are uncomfortable for you to hear. It's Bill O'Reilly. Very uncomfortable things are going to be said. He's going to talk about responsibility and history and perspective, and I warn you, it's not that you're going to be uncomfortable. You will be unsafe for the next few minutes. Welcome to the program, Bill O'Reilly. How are you, sir?
Boy, you're maligning me already, Beck.
Well,
I am here to spread
love.
Spread joy.
Joy, love, joy. Yeah. So Bill, Bill,
yes.
I have a question for you. First of all, it was good to see you on Fox this week and good to see a number one finish. I think one of the first ones they've had since you left. But it was nice to see
we
that.
had a big night on Tuesday, and it was very interesting.
Yeah, it was. Could I ask you a question? And you may not, you don't have to answer this, but it's not rhetorical. If you were so dangerous that you had to be removed from the building and your show taken off, why would you ever have you on as a guest?
Look, Beck, I told you from the very beginning, and I told everybody, and I had a written statement, all right, that it was a pure business decision made. And we all know, because you went through it yourself, Beck.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, that the evil far-left cabal put together a fiction, a fantasy to silence my voice like they did with you and many, many others, and then they tried it with Sean Hannity, and it didn't work with Sean Hannity. So he has empathy for me. We actually, Hannity and I have built a big empathy tent on my front lawn.
Oh, my gosh. Well, they're becoming very popular. They're very nice. They're very nice. So wait a minute.
Is there any thinking American, and this is what, is the crux of your question and my answer. Yeah. Any thinking American knows what happened, and let's just make sure it doesn't happen again to anyone.
So, no, actually, any thinking American is thinking to themselves right now with number 3 finishes since you left. Any thinking American is thinking they should put Bill O'Reilly back on. Is there a possibility you go back to Fox News?
Look, I can't speak to any of that at this point because we still have legal stuff going on. And we're going to.
So what you're saying here? Let me just say, what I'm hearing is
but
you're not officially finished with the paperwork that you're not necessarily on Cobra yet. So it wouldn't be that hard to reverse the thrusters.
It's a little bit more complicated than that. When I left, I formed a legal team.
Yeah.
All right, and I told them, you get to the bottom of this with names, with dates, with everything that you can get, and we're going to put it out to the American public. Now, we started it a couple of weeks ago with a woman who was arrested in Detroit, filing a false police report.
Tell that story. Right. We told it but it's worth
she was
retelling.
Charged. This is a woman who I never saw before, never spoke before, who went on The View and said I said untoward things to her.
And she was the one who said you called her hot chocolate or something like that.
All of that. A total lie, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay? And again, I never even saw the woman in my life. So now we know.
Explain what she did, what happened in Detroit.
All right. So she, a few years ago, calls the police, tells the police that a man threatened to harm her. The police come. The story turns out to be bogus. She's arrested and charged.
Okay, wait a minute. You are for a broadcaster of your skill. That was a terrible telling of that story. Here's what happened. She is at home. She has a disagreement with her boyfriend. She says, "I'm going to call the police and tell them that you are pistol whipping me." And he says, "No, you're not. I don't have a pistol." And she said, "Oh, you watch me." She calls police. She tells them, "I'm being beaten with a pistol by this guy. Help, help, help." 911, they come. The cops, come in. They look at the situation. Doesn't look like anybody's being beaten. And they say, "Where's the gun, ma'am?" And she said, "Well, he didn't have a gun." "Well, was he beating you?" "Well, no, he wasn't beating me." Wow. They arrested her for making a false charge.
And charged her.
Right.
And then in addition to that, the stuff that she said I said, she had tweeted 3 or 4 years earlier. She had tweeted the exact phrases she was talking about herself. So
she called herself hot chocolate?
Thank God that Newsmax put it out, because we gave it to others and they wouldn't, because, no, you can't demonize a victim. I said, there is no victim. Oh, no. So with the fix is in, everybody knows that the wider question and the wider problem for America is, this is not just happening to me. And when I was on Hannity on Tuesday, I recommended Cheryl Atkinson's book, Smear, which goes through it, and Beck is featured prominently in that book. All right? It goes through it, who's doing it, where's the money coming from, and there hasn't been anybody that said Cheryl got it wrong.
No, I tell you, Bill.
Have you seen Cheryl on 60 Minutes? Have you seen her on the CBS Morning News or Good Morning America?
No, she's been removed and her voice has been silenced. But I was shocked. I didn't know. I had no idea I was in that book of Cheryl's, and the first chapter or two are about me, because she said they perfected it with me.
Yes.
They used me as the guinea pig, the first
and
one.
Who wouldn't be if you were looking for a guinea pig? Who wouldn't?
So now that's not
want to use Glenn Beck.
I mean, that's really not helpful here, Bill. It's really not helpful.
I'm sorry.
Let me ask you some more uncomfortable. Have they offered you your spot back?
No.
At Fox?
No.
When are they going to?
Beck, I'm telling you that
I know. You'll tell me whatever you have to tell me now, because you're in negotiations with Fox, and you don't want to say anything.
No,
that's what I heard. That's what America heard, Bill. That's what America heard.
That young British woman. Peace, love, truth, honor. Okay,
whatever,
come on back.
Whatever. I don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, so Bill.
At the beginning of your show.
yeah. Whatever. I don't listen to my show.
Okay, there's a bell in there.
So Bill, let's switch gears and let me please try to pry you off of all of this Fox nonsense, and get to the tax plan of Donald Trump.
Yes.
There's some good things in it. There's some okay things in it. It would be great if this is where we ended. Why does he negotiate and start at such a place? I mean, it's like he doesn't understand the Overton window at all. It's like you should be saying, we're going to abolish the IRS. And then when you get down to, okay, we'll keep the IRS, but it's going to be a flat tax of 20%, everybody's like, wow, well, that's so much more reasonable.
I see what you're talking about.
He starts so
they don't
wishy-washy.
Right. They don't use any strategic thinking and presentation. I can't speak for the president or his advisors. I really don't know why they do what they do. I think that most people in America, most working people, honest people, would benefit from this. That's really all I care about. It looks like it's fair in the sense that it would give people more power. Money is power, okay? And that's what I want to do. I want to empower the individual so they can have as a good a life as possible.
But let's say if you're struggling, and and you're struggling to make ends meet. You were, I don't know, fired, and you had to leave with a $25 million settlement, and
rough today.
And you're struggling. Somebody who has that could end up paying a lot more in taxes under this, because it looks like they're going to come after people who do make a lot of money.
Yeah, people at the high end will pay more, or it will be flat. So when Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader for the Democrats, comes out and says this is welfare, he's lying.
Oh my gosh, it just
he's lying.
Nuts.
All right. Now the real objection is the corporate tax, because, as Bernie Sanders put it, this is unfair, more billionaires. And you look at these people and you say there isn't any tax cut, all right, that you would approve.
No.
That's going to stimulate the economy. You just will not do it. But here's the fascinating part. If Donald Trump doesn't get it passed, I don't think he's going to be reelected. I mean, I think that'll be the end.
Wow.
I really do.
Do you think he will get this passed?
You know, what it's going to come down to is who's going to sabotage him in his own party. And that's kind of like we should have a guessing contest. Which Republican senators are going to turn and stab Trump in the back, in the face, in the front? So let's say Susan Collins, who really isn't a Republican, she's from Maine, she'll figure out a way not to vote for it, right? That's likely. Mm-hmm. Now, Rand Paul, you would think that he would vote for it. Because if he doesn't, that he's over. I mean, they'll never reelect him in Kentucky ever. So you figure he's in. John McCain, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he walks on in and go, oh, you know, it's just not right. So
no, John McCain.
maybe,
honestly, John McCain is making Ted Kennedy look like a conservative lately.
Yeah,
he's
so all right. So you say McCain and Collins. That's two. So he needs, if he gets two more defections, he's in trouble because Schumer's threatened all the Democratic senators by saying, look, if you vote for a tax cut, number one, we'll run somebody against you in your primary. And number two, we'll cut off every penny from the Democratic National Committee so you won't have any money.
Bill O'Reilly, we'll back with him in just a second. We have a lot to talk to Bill about. If we can get him to just pipe down about his triumphant return to Fox. He's also got a new book out. It's Killing England, and you can get that book in bookstores everywhere. And we'll probably touch base on that book a little bit as well.
Glenn Beck.
So, Stu, do you ever watch the Bill O'Reilly podcast, the No Spin News?
Yeah.
Wow, that sounded convincing.
Absolutely.
Do you notice
on
that
BillO'Reilly.com? Is that what you said? Yeah.
Do you notice that he's not wearing the suit?
Really?
He's very.
I mean, yeah, of course I've noticed.
Right. Mm-hmm. Bill, you're going casual an awful lot. I wanted to know if you've heard about Forever 21 coming out with the new Taco Bell clothing line.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm going to dress like a burrito.
Yeah, right. I mean, what have we come to when Taco Bell has a clothing line out that is going to be sold in the malls?
Well, you know, they better watch out or Media Matters will boycott them like Ivanka Trump.
Right. Boy, the Ivanka Trump stuff is just...
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we were talking about previously. That what did Ivanka Trump do to anyone? Nothing. So these idiots get to Nordstrom's and they say, hey, you know, if you don't dump her clothing line, we're going to put the color of change outside all the Nordstrom stores and scream you're a racist. You know, how long are Americans going to put up with this? That's my question. How long are we the people going to put
Bill,
up with this?
Bill, we don't even know what the freedom of speech means in this country anymore. I mean,
well, you know, that's one of the reasons, and I'm sure we'll get to Killing England, the number one book in the country right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again.
But people have got to do it themselves. They've got to start to get away from the machines and get away from just being interested in what their own pursuits are and say, you know what? Our freedoms are really under siege. This country is changing for the worse. And they did that to some extent with the NFL, Beck. Last night, you didn't see anybody sitting. All the players stood up.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they were tickling each other and doing the lambada, but they didn't kneel.
I'm fine with that.
Right?
The lambada?
Yeah, the dance of love.
The dance of lambada. I think that's a partial lobotomy and a dance move, but I'm not sure.
Right,
but
something
go ahead.
like that.
Yeah, all right. But the thing on this was even Donald Trump was wrong on freedom of speech. He said, you know, they should be fired. Well, I mean, as a private corporation, yes, they could.
Where he was coming from.
Yeah, but he's also the president of the United States. I mean, that's, you know, you don't want the president. I wouldn't have wanted Barack Obama to say things like that because usually he was saying it about people like me and you. So
here's why I don't care about that anymore. he gets everybody, Trump does, engaged. So everybody starts to pay attention. That's hard to do.
Yeah. Okay, I guess we're out of time. We just cut Bill O'Reilly off. Back with more of Bill here in a second.
Glenn Beck. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Back with Bill O'Reilly, friend of the program, and of course, best-selling author, #1 on television for 150,000 years, and just an icon of our society. And we're thrilled to have him on. Let me switch to healthcare, Bill, because I think when you said, which I think is pretty important, what you just said about taxes, that you don't think if Donald Trump doesn't get this passed, you don't think he will be president or he'll win in 2020. I think this is going to cause, the healthcare thing is going to cause so much damage to everyone involved that I don't know how any of this shakes out. Because they failed to repeal or replace Obamacare, 47 out of the 50 cities in America, Obamacare coverage will be unaffordable by the end of next year. And in so much, the families will need to incur an extra $28,939 before a plan will become affordable. On average, the family of 3 will now have to earn a 6-figure salary or $110,823 for coverage to be affordable because of Obamacare. This is going to change the landscape of everything politically.
Okay. A very interesting analogy, but there's a difference. Because I do this BillO'Reilly.com thing, I have much more access to individuals because they can reach me faster and more direct, okay?
Yep.
We've got hundreds of thousands of people now that I hear from, not all of them, but we have a lot of input coming in.
Right.
When the health care thing went down, the vast majority of my audience, which is not a strictly conservative audience, okay? Mm-hmm. It's traditional, but not strictly conservative.
Yes, I agree.
Weren't that angry at Trump, okay? Their anger was turned into McCain and the Democrats, okay? They don't know who Susan Collins is or Murkowski. And they saw that Trump wanted to repeal and replace, but he was sabotaged. That won't happen with the tax cuts because the tax cuts are so much more immediate. And Trump promised that it would happen. Yes, he promised Obamacare would go away too, but this was the economic basis upon which Trump was elected, that he is a problem solver in the economic realm, that he can get things done, that he can make deals. That's why he was elected.
Right.
One, the folks will tolerate, and it'll come back because you're right. I mean, people are going to just, when they see what's going to happen in the next 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
When literally you have to make $110,000 to afford insurance, it's going to be
right.
It'll be horrible.
And it's going to be horrible for the Democrats because the Democrats are invested in this insanity. But
so are the Republicans.
He's got, some are. But the tax cut, Trump's got to make the deal. He's got to make the deal. Or the independents, which decide elections now, will flee. Not his base. He'll keep his base at 33, 35%. But the others, the independents, will flee.
So have you heard about the Retirement Income Security Act of 1974, ERISA? The Employment Retirement Income Security Act.
ERISA.
ERISA. Can you explain this, Stu?
Yeah, it's an interesting move by Trump, and they're talking about doing it now. And it's being reported as he's going to have some big executive order that's going to overturn Obamacare. I don't read it that way at all. When you look at the details, basically the act was from the 70s. It allows big companies, that's how it's typically been used, to create their own healthcare systems. And they don't have to deal with any of the regulations. So they can insure their employers without having to deal with all what they now have as Obamacare regulations. And the way it's typically been, interpreted is this idea of commonality. People all working for IBM, right, can be interpreted a bunch of different ways.
In other words, you could say all Catholics,
or all farmers, or
right.
And so the idea is Trump is just going to interpret this law on the loose end, meaning that it's not going to have to be a super tight reason that you have commonality, but really a much looser definition of that word, which I don't think is an executive order. It's an interpretation difference, and it's the type of thing that could be overturned by the next president. But it would essentially allow people to go into separate healthcare systems outside of Obamacare and get much, much lower rates. It's a pretty big deal. And of course, they're also saying that they think it's going to collapse Obamacare because, getting around those restrictions and all the crazy regulations are going to change the cost structures.
Well, it'll change the cost structure because the healthy people that are responsible, that want health care for their family, they'll be the industrious ones that will do this, and that'll just leave the sick and the ones who are just going to join up when they get sick into the government system, which we also said that's inevitable. That's what's going to happen. So have you followed this at all, Bill?
I feel like I'm listening to an episode of Dr. Kildare.
Really? Because that's amazing, because I'm not old enough to remember Dr. Kildare.
How about Ben Casey?
No. Marcus Welby, kind of. Mm-hmm. But okay. I'm more of emergency, Squad 51 kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I think that I really think it's interesting solely from the idea that this is supposedly the Trump administration and Rand Paul working together on a solution that is within the law and is not some unfair executive order. Rand Paul is a constitutionalist. He wouldn't be pushing for an executive order like this, I don't think.
No.
This would be an interesting solution for a lot of people.
So,
a lot of folks, Bill. Maybe if I say it that way, you'd come on.
I'm not opposing anything. I mean, you guys are so much smarter than I am. I'm just coloring here.
Oh, my gosh. I know.
Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me switch gears to Otto Warmbier's parents.
Yeah.
They came out this week, and they were talking about how the North Koreans had taken pliers to their son, that he was blind, they had beaten him, and it's a pretty compelling story. However, the coroner has come out and said that's not true. His teeth were fine. What's happening there, Bill? What do you think that is?
The grief takes a lot of different faces, and this family is just absolutely destroyed and devastated because Otto was, I believe, murdered by the North Koreans. So are they overstating it? Perhaps.
I believe he was murdered by them as well.
Yeah, but there's no doubt in my mind that this North Korean regime are as evil as any regime on the face of the earth, and I'm including Iran in that.
Yeah.
And, it may have to come to someone saying if they attack someone else, then I think that Trump will move against them.
Let me switch to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, the stuff is starting to stack up at the docks and at the airports. This is a disaster of biblical proportions.
This is a parallel to New Orleans and Katrina.
I think it's bigger than that. I think it's much bigger than that.
Yeah, it certainly would, but the same problems are in place.
Correct.
When you saw what happened in Texas and the way that the Texans dealt with it, you were dealing with a efficient government. You were dealing with people who are basically organized and responsible, so that they were able to take the aid that was offered and really move quickly.
Yeah, but
living in Florida.
But also, Texans, it's not an island. And so people came from all over Texas. They're still going every weekend.
Yeah, sure.
They're still going.
But
and they have gas and they can get places. They don't have any fuel. They don't have cell phones. They have nothing. So
let me make my point here.
All right. Okay. All
right.
Hey, you're so
the
hostile.
Government of Puerto Rico is basically inefficient. So was the government of New Orleans.
Yes.
Okay? So that when disaster strikes, their response is not going to be as effective as the Texas or Florida response.
Correct.
Period.
Correct.
All right. So what we have now is the aid is coming in, but it's not being distributed because the infrastructure is devastated and there's no organization at the local level. So it's going to get to the folks. It's just going to take much longer. Now, what can any human being do? Trump's going there on Tuesday. I don't know what anybody can do when you don't have cell phone service, when your infrastructure is knocked out. You can't get truck drivers to truck this stuff into the inner portions of the island.
They don't have any gas to get their trucks moving.
But they're bringing things in at a record rate. The Marines are on the ground.
We have 5 or 10? I think we have 10,000 FEMA workers. We're at the hospitals. The governor of Puerto Rico said, "Hey, don't bring the USS Comfort in yet, the naval hospital ship that just arrived, I think, yesterday or is on its way." They're saying, don't bring that in. We need to fix the local hospitals first. So we sent in people and teams to get the generators and to get everything going with the hospitals. Now that they've cleared one of the ports, they can actually pull the hospital ship in.
Right.
I mean, he seems like he has done everything that he could do and is supposed to do.
You're talking about Trump now?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like he's done it.
Every circumstance is different, but there doesn't seem to be a dereliction on the part of the federal government. But if you put on CNN, of course there is, and they're all racist and on and on.
Okay, so one last question on Puerto Rico, and that is the Jones Act. Are you for a repeal of the?
Yes, I am. I mean, if you can
full
get
repeal,
aid,
not just temporary, but like really repeal that. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. And Beck and I should lead that. Look, if somebody else wants to help out Puerto Rico or any place else in America, they should be able to help out without a bunch of bureaucratic nonsense. And, in the post-apocalyptic society where the zombies attack, we're going to need a lot of help back.
Exactly.
So we got to get rid of that Jones Act.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the zombie thing, but I agree with you. Okay.
You're not sure about the zombie thing?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
No. Have you ever been to Bolivia? No, I'm only kidding. It's a joke, you Media Matters people.
The new book, Killing England, is on sale now.
Beck.
Number one book in the country. And you're welcome, Bill. You're welcome.
No, you made it. Listen.
No.
If I had to redesign the cover, I would have George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and Glenn Beck, everyone.
Right. That's the first time he's ever used my first name.
Oh, my gosh.
I think that's the first time he's ever used my first name. Let's write this day down. It's a special day. Bill O'Reilly at BillO'Reilly.com. Find his new book, Killing England, on sale everywhere. Thanks, Bill. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.